Ladies and gentlefish, boys and squirrels, welcome back. Today we got another side-by-side sculpt inside a Zbrush and Blender. See which one is better, but really is more just for fun. So let's dive right into this sucker. And what we're doing today is sculpting Totodile. Let's just start off by taking a look at Zbrush. On the left-hand side, if you've never seen what this funky magic is what's happening here, this is called Z-spheres inside of ZBrush. In a nutshell, all I'm doing, drop in one of these spheres and then I can just pull out these kind of armatures and block out my entire mesh. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So you can see I started with the body, head, tail, and I was able to kind of match the curvature of that tail, and I'll fine tune that a little bit later. And then arms, fingers. Contrast that to what I'm doing inside of Blender. Blender has the ability for something like this. You basically just draw vertices and then you can extrude along those vertices. I tried it and it did not work. So I probably screwed something up. It did not work for me. I tried several times, just didn't work. I'll try again someday. But Blender does have a paid add-on called B-spheres, but I'm not gonna pay 20 bucks for something in Blender. So back over to ZBrush, you can see I've taken those Z-spheres and I've converted them to a mesh. My mesh was way too dense, so you have complete control over that. But now I'm just gonna push, pull, make it lower poly, easier to work with. Back over in Blender, since I don't have Z-spheres, what I did was just block out the body and then use snake hook to drag that tail where I need it. I used Dyn Topo for the tail, which was great. That worked out pretty well. And then snake hook for the pink spines along the back. At this stage, it looks a lot better over in Blender. So currently Blender is winning, but I think I nailed down the proportions a lot better inside of ZBrush. This is my first time using a reference image of any kind inside of Blender. So thank you for all the comments telling me how easy it is to do this. And there's many different ways. So I appreciate that a lot. Using snake hook and the grab brush inside of Blender just to pull out more of those spines. And over in ZBrush, using Sculptress Pro, that is one of the best things about ZBrush is I don't have to care at all about geometry. So I can kind of not care about geometry inside of Blender, but in ZBrush, it doesn't matter. I don't care right now. I can have hundreds of thousands of polygons, whatever I need to nail the shape. And I know ZBrush is going to give it to me. It's going to work. Blender is doing great since this 9.3 update on my Mac. Linked above is a video where I kind of go through how it actually works now. Before, I was just a giant struggle. I will say this sculpt inside of Blender, as smooth as the sculpting was, now that they've made some voodoo magic tweaks, it crashed. Let's see, this sculpt in Blender took me about 2.5 hours. I think 2.5 hours. And ZBrush over here took me probably 90 minutes. But in Blender, it crashed 12 different times. No joke. And towards the end, my file was just corrupt. So I save in iterations, and in those 2.5 hours, I saved 9 different times. Last time I saved from 8 to 9, the file became corrupt. Thankfully, I got the footage, but it was a nightmare. 0 crashes inside of ZBrush, so go figure there. Inside of ZBrush, another thing that I always mention, ZBrush has insert mesh. So for the eyebrows, not the eyebrows, the eyelids, I actually just dropped in a half sphere, put it into place, and you can see that I created my own custom insert mesh brush. So I made one of these claws and then I can just drag and drop the insert mesh brush. In Blender, it's much more tedious because I create one and then I copy and paste or duplicate whatever it's called in Blender and then finagle it into position. So just push, shove, pull, which brings me to another thing. I don't know why. I'm using industry standard over in Blender. The point that I'm trying to make is W, E, and R did not work when I was in Blender in object mode. So W did not go to move, E was not rotate, R was not scale. So I had to click it each time. Don't know what's up with that. Maybe I just need to fresh install a Blender. Maybe that'll fix it. I just had lots of struggles with this, but the sculpting feel so much better than what I've ever experienced. So good on you, Blender. Good on you. Over inside of ZBrush, you just missed it because I was busy talking. I used that bend curve modifier. So I just took basically like a tube and then I had all these control points. So I was perfectly able very quickly to get the curvature of that tail. Doing it in Blender, I used a sphere and then just snake hook, push and pull, and it was doable for sure. But inside of ZBrush, using that bend curve feature, it was awesome. Definitely saved the day there. Dropping in some eyes. There's that insert mesh brush for the half sphere of the eyelids inside of ZBrush. And in Blender, I'm still just pushing, pulling, getting those claws in there. And I did the block out approach inside of Blender, like I said. So the legs are separate, the arms are separate. I haven't mirrored everything over. Actually, that's when I broke the file. The truth comes out. So at the end of the sculpt, I don't really know how to like confirm multi-res or anything like that. I know you can do it in Blender, but once again, I didn't want to look it up. So if I can't figure something out in 12 seconds, it ain't happening. So I don't really know what I'm doing in Blender, but I'm getting somewhere. Okay, so I had multi-res on the body. What I typically do is like mirror the arm over in Blender. So I'll like select the arm, go to the modifier, add the mirror modifier, click the little eyedropper, pick the body, and it knows the center point or whatever. Then it'll mirror it over, but it crashed because I had a multi-res modifier on there, but it didn't just crash, it corrupted my file, was not able to recover the file. Who knows? I'll take it as a learning process. In the top left of the Blender screen, you can see my FPS, which is pretty dang terrible, but it wasn't really a hindrance. This is much better than what it's been in a long time. So yeah, that's awesome. Low end iMac, and things are going okay. I don't know if Blender can do this, but if you take a look at Zbrush, I'm able to mask and then use this transpose line just to, pose my character really, really quickly. It's very intuitive in my opinion. I know you can mask inside of Blender. It just seems really clunky to me. I guess I need more practice. I also went ahead and colored the sculpt inside of Zbrush just for fun, but we're nearing the end. I'm putting in the final details just using the grab brush.